Welcome everybody to episode 113 of the ADV podcasts, the China show. And we have quite a jam-packed episode for you today. A lot of interesting things to talk about. A lot of highs, a lot of lows, and everything in between.
First of all, super pumped to say that this episode is brought to you by Athletic Greens. Very happy to have a sponsor. We'll talk more about that later.
Absolutely. Anyway, it's time for us to get into what's new. So let's just saunter right into that with what's new, where we talk about what's new with regards to China. Now, last time we spoke about, even though it wasn't the main topic of the show, we spoke about that awful situation that happened in Tangshan, where those thugs basically tried to, they put some advances on, this one guy put some advances on some women in a restaurant, and they didn't reciprocate, and so him and his buddies ended up beating the women up in a savage, terrible manner, and it's really started a big discussion around China about domestic abuse and about the attitudes towards women and women's rights and things like that. And unfortunately, as a result, or fortunately, a lot of new videos are coming to light, surfacing of terrible beatings and horrible things happening, which just proves how terrible the situation is for women in China. But what we're talking about now, that I'm going to show you now, is the response to that beating at the BBQ restaurant. What happened after this beating and it went viral and all that?
In typical China fashion, they have an Overreach campaign. And basically what that means is to show the public and to make sure the state media is there to report on it. They will do the craziest things just to say, look, we've taken care of it. Don't worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
So although this is a prolific thing that happens all over China for many, many years now, we've seen it happen multiple times.
We've personally seen
it in real life. We've seen probably 100 plus videos at this point of this kind of thing happening. But there's never really a response unless something gets too embarrassing. This Tangshan thing was hugely embarrassing for China because the Chinese government is always saying, they actually put out this ridiculous campaign they involved me in. They used me and my wife for propaganda to say, my wife is going to divorce me because America's too scary to go out at night and she just wants to go out and get barbecue. But she can't do that at 2 a.m., right? Sure. Because she'll go get beat up and set on fire. But in China, you can do that. And that campaign actually, that whole you can't go out at 2 a.m. to get barbecue, got clowned on by Chinese netizens, and they're like, what are you talking about? And they kept playing that clip over and over again at the barbecue, right? So anyway, they over-respond. They overreach. They put cops out there, SWAT team, all this kind of stuff to be like, look, now the barbecues are safe, as if the barbecue is the problem.
Yeah, of course.
Not the systemic, horrible problem in society caused by the Chinese government covering up abuse all the time. It's not that. It's barbecue is the problem. So we're out there to send SWAT team out there to make sure everyone's okay.
I've seen footage of they've got police with bullhorns shouting right above people that are having barbecue about stay safe, no fighting allowed, that kind of thing. And they're patrolling around. Yeah. We all know this is unsustainable. They'll do this for a week or two to kind of just raise awareness and get the film crews in, and then it'll go back to normal. You know, the thing is, I've made several videos about the difficulty when it comes to women's rights in China. It's awful. I mean, for instance, even if you're in a terrible abusive relationship, you're not allowed to have a divorce. They give you that 1 month cool down period. Yeah. So let's say,
cool down.
I mean, imagine you're being horribly beaten up and almost murdered by your husband. You go to the cops and you're like, I need a divorce. They'll be like, you're not allowed to get divorced. First, you have to go through a 1 month cool down period. Now, what do you think is going to happen? You think that's going to make the beatings less?
The guy's going to go home. You know what he's going to do? He's going to be like, you know what? They told me to cool down. That's what I'm going to do. And he makes an ice bath. He chills out. He thinks about his problems. And he's like, I'm in the wrong here. That's what happens.
Yeah. Anyway, without getting too much into that, it is a huge problem. I'm glad there's a spotlight on it at the moment. I hope the spotlight continues to stay on it. It's an awful thing to think about. It's an awful thing to talk about. But let's just hope.
No, it's awful. But I do want to say that there's been a very interesting response in China to it. And there's been some memes that come out of it, and it's not to clown on the victims. It's to actually clown on the perpetrators.
Right.
So you can play the clip back here. I've harvested a few of the clips that have been going viral in China.
Okay, so what do you got for us here? What's this?
So first off, do you remember the perpetrator?
One of them, his friend.
Yeah, his friend.
The guy with the black T-shirt. He was wearing the Boy London. Boy London. Is that what it is?
So anyway, listen. Yeah. Here's the deal. There are perpetrators. Basically, if you're new to this whole situation, they beat up some women.
Some helpless women. And nobody stepped in to help, and it was brutal. It was terrible.
Yeah. One of the guys, typical thug attire. We're going to do a special on what Chinese thug attire is.
Yes, we did the Lao Ban attire. We're going to do
It was wildly popular, too. We're going to do thug attire. So anyway, he's wearing a Boy London shirt. And if you guys want to Google Boy London, it's this brand that has this almost like eagle-looking thing.
Kind of like a Nazi eagle, let's be honest.
Kind of looks pretty Nazi.
It looks like the Nazi
But I don't want to
eagle.
get Boy London upset.
Sure, I'm just saying it
probably
looks
has
like
some
that.
other significance. Anyway.
Of course, I mean that eagle's used in many, like
just
the Romans. The Romans used it.
reminds me
Okay,
of that for
of
some
course, because it's very similar looking.
Sure.
Okay.
Anyway, very popular brand in China.
Yeah.
And so what they did was they changed it to Bad Boy instead of Boy London.
Yeah.
Because he was like a bad guy, right?
Right.
It's got like play on words. But anyway, next up we have a barbecue scene here.
Well, one thing I got to say is Boy of London actually wrote like an apology letter or something,
Boy
didn't
London,
they?
yeah.
Boy London, to say that they don't approve of violence.
Well, you kind of have to do that to clear your name, just because people will attribute that.
You think so?
I mean, I don't think you have to.
So if someone's wearing a Calvin Klein T-shirt, all of a sudden Calvin Klein has to say, "Oh."
I don't think it's necessary. I think it's smart.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's it's also brand awareness. You could be like, listen, we don't appreciate that.
Right.
You know, we stand on the side of good. Blah blah. Anyway, this guy, he's
wearing the.
Okay, pause it there. Wait, go back. I gotta start it. So this is thug. They're eating barbecue together, right?
Yeah.
This is a typical Chinese thug look, by the way.
Yeah, this is the thug
And
look.
he's got the Boy London shirt on and the gold chain. It's the
Yeah,
whatever.
the gold chain is key. We'll get into this. We'll do it properly. But
or the beads.
Yeah.
The wooden
yes,
beads.
the sort of prayer beads.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, so he's eating dinner at a barbecue restaurant. The guy looks down and he looks at the wanted poster, and it's the Boy London guy, and he's like,
Yeah. Is this
This
him?
guy matches the description, so he gives him some meat. He's shaking. He's so scared. He's like,
Yeah.
and the guy's like, all right.
That's pretty hilarious. First time I'm seeing these.
Yeah, so that was pretty funny. Then this is not a meme. This is legit what they're doing in China because
Going
of
to
this.
barbecue restaurants.
They're
like
walking around in a barbecue restaurant with weapons.
Yes.
The SWAT team
and riot shields and,
riot
whatnot.
shields, yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
I just wanted to fill you guys in that this was well discussed, and the problem is because China tried to. Well, at first they always try to like downplay this stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And then they try to overreact. Right. So what's happened instead is people are digging up all the instances that this didn't get covered.
Yeah.
Because this happens so I can't. I'm not just saying this.
Yeah.
If you used to turn on WeChat and go into your group, whatever groups you're in, especially if there was guys in there.
Yeah.
They would share these videos and nobody's promoting it. No one's like, hell yeah. Everyone's like, this is terrible. But they share these things.
Yeah, this is effed up. And
This
share
is
it.
effed up. And
This
they'll share
happened. This happened like in the neighborhood or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Sometimes it'd be local.
Yeah, remember
Yeah.
we saw that one of the guys getting stabbed at the barbecue thing?
Yeah,
And we were
yeah,
like,
yeah.
holy crap, that's just down the road from us.
Yeah.
You have to understand that it's an awful part of, sort of Chinese society is this kind of thuggish, beat people up culture that happens at barbecue restaurants when people get drunk. It does happen.
Yeah.
And the problem is, this image of China being incredibly safe is, number one, it's a priority for the Chinese government to have that image out there.
Yeah.
And it's maintained by just simply not letting people see the bad news. That's how it works.
That's how
and
it
I've
works.
explained this
Yep.
before. If, for instance, we had not seen that video that was shared on WeChat of the guys getting stabbed at that barbecue restaurant that we'd been to ourselves in Huizhou around the corner.
Just the day before.
Yeah. If we had not seen that video, we wouldn't know.
You would know. How would you know? There's not going to
No.
be posters up.
No, it's not in the news. No one's talking about it. So you'd be like, I live in the safest place in the world because you didn't know that somebody was stabbed. I don't know if they died or not, but the fact of the matter is people were stabbed.
You know what
right
another
next
good
door.
analogy is?
What?
The hospital next to my
Yeah.
house where the 8 nurses got stabbed.
And we saw the
chopped
blood.
up. And we saw the blood, but was it reported?
Nope.
Absolutely not. It was scrubbed immediately.
Yeah.
Quite literally.
So, I mean, that's the awful reality about this whole veneer or this whole facade of safety in China is that it appears incredibly safe. And the average traveler who goes there will attest that it's a safe place. I will also say that it's a pretty safe place. I mean, look, I got...
So are most
Yeah.
places if you just show up for a little while.
Yeah, and if you don't look for trouble, let's
Yeah.
put it that way. But the fact of the matter is, in other parts of the world, especially in places like America, when there is something that happens that's
There's a
terrible,
light on it.
everybody knows about it. Not just in America, but the whole world.
Yeah.
So everyone's hyper-focused on these bad instances that happen around America or the UK or whatever the case may be, the knife violence or the gun violence, and everyone's like, oh, wow, it's so dangerous there. And people are saying, but it's so safe in China. But that's only because there's no focus on the terrible things that are happening.
And I think one very, very important thing, and I'd love to just do a proper expose on this.
By the way, you
gotta understand.
gotta understand China.
I do.
Yeah.
I want to do a proper expose on this at some point about how, and I think I will, with a very strange analogy that I've been planning.
Okay.
But how you can't even look at rudimentary statistics from China.
Yeah.
Because if you go off of record and you said, okay, I'm going to use China's public records to say, oh, it's very safe statistically, they're not real.
No.
Do you understand? So when there's stuff recorded, 90% of the time it's scrubbed from the internet, it's scrubbed from public consciousness. So you wouldn't, like you said, you had a good point. You wouldn't know if you didn't see it, right? No. Do you think somehow that stuff is being recorded officially and then given to other countries as data? Absolutely not. Right?
That's why we're lucky that this particular instance went viral. Okay, because if it goes viral like that, before the censors can scrub it, it starts to get attention. People start to talk about it. And as you can see, there is some inkling of change, like the idea of them sending armed people to walk around the barbecue restaurants. We know that it's not permanent. We know that it's just a big show that'll be there for a couple of weeks and then disappear and everything will go back to normal.
Know.
But at least there's a little bit of change, a little bit of effort. And so that's
like consciousness
why, that's why it's important for these the bad, darker parts of Chinese society to be discussed and shown.
That's how it can change.
Yeah, that's how you change it. Anyway, we're going on and on. We should talk about another dark side of China.
Well, actually, this is this is very much in line with what I'm talking about.
Right.
About statistics, about quotas, and about how things are promised, but nothing comes to fruition.
Yeah.
Or if it does, it's for propaganda. So back in the day, I should say last year, Xi Jinping created this thing called, it was actually part of Xi Jinping thought, okay, which I'm pretty good at, pretty well versed in Xi Jinping thought. I've done a lot of deep dives onto his literature that I guarantee you he didn't write.
Sure.
But anyway, Xi Jinping thought is this new era for China. It's proclaimed kind of like Mao's little red book. It's this new era of rules and how China's going to progress.
Yeah.
And one of Xi Jinping's thoughts was actually his great toilet revolution.
The toilet revolution.
And you can laugh all you want, but if China needed anything, it's a toilet revolution.
Absolutely.
Right? So the idea was that, well, I mean, he never declared that China had a toilet problem. What it was is that we need to get the rural countryside to catch up with the cities in terms of toilet quality. Yeah. And I can attest that both the countryside toilets and the city toilets are usually bad, unless you go to like a
and by
nice
toilets
mall.
We're talking about public toilets.
Public
here.
toilets,
not in someone's home.
No.
Well, in the rural, yes, in someone's home it's going to be terrible, but just in general, the public toilet system in China. For those of you who are not aware, first of all, there is no toilet paper on offer in the public toilets, unless, like you say, you go into some kind of very fancy upper class mall or something like that, and even then, usually not.
Right.
It's lacking.
It is.
Okay.
So why don't we just play a little footage?
We'll show you now.
This was not cherry picked, by the way. This is just from your video.
Yeah,
from stuff we've seen around the country.
This was actually remember what was that? What's that place again that we used to go riding all the twisties around the reservoir there? Heyuan. Okay.
This is, we ate here.
Yeah. This was like a little restaurant in Heyuan. I asked the boss if I could go up to use the toilet, and he directed me to the toilet, which, as you can see here, is in the kitchen. And for those of you who don't know whether it's in the kitchen or not, there you can see some of the raw materials hanging around. There's this wok on the wall. There's the toilet. There are some eggs in a bag, because we had like Dan Chao Fan or whatever. You know, a very simple menu. He'll make food for you in his restaurant.
Hey, piss eggs.
Yeah. But that is the toilet in the kitchen where the food is prepared. Okay?
Can I pause it for a second?
Sure.
Can you go pause it on that?
Yeah, sure.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
It's something I've not seen just once, and I think you can attest to this. I have seen vegetables in the toilet.
Yeah. No, being washed in the toilet. Yes. Yeah. Look,
because there's running water.
You have to understand that. Look, we're not trying to make out as if this is the whole of China. Okay, of course not.
No.
But when we've traveled via motorcycle around China to the more rural parts of China, this kind of thing can be quite common. Not only in the rural parts, but if like just a crappy barbecue restaurant or something. In the kitchens, some of them aren't very well equipped. They don't have proper sinks and things like that. They'll just have like a squat toilet in the kitchen, which is first of all used by the staff. But then it's also, they've got like a hose pipe and a faucet there, a spigot, a tap, whatever you call it, with a like hose pipe on it, right?
Yeah,
and then
they know all too well.
They use that to like clean themselves, but they also use that to like clean the vegetables. There's the water. There's the so-called sink. Is that squat toilet? I've seen vegetables being washed there.
Me too.
Yeah. and
It's
on more than one occasion.
Yes. Anyway, keep going.
Right.
We'll even show you some that are in downtown Beijing.
Now this was in that Dong minority, was it? No, it was the Yao minority, right?
Yeah.
In Henan.
In Henan.
And they invited us into their home, which was very nice.
It's very cool.
Squat toilets are common, by the way, in China. It's
honestly, theirs is cleaner than the average
theirs was great.
Yeah.
Squat toilets, by the way, would you say it's the majority of people use them in China?
Yeah,
absolutely,
sure.
the majority.
Absolutely,
I mean, foreigners when they get there will probably find it difficult.
You learn to squat, and I couldn't do it in the beginning, and then I heard something pop in my ankles, and I could do it.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of apparently like beneficial health benefits to using squat toilets. Like you're not sitting on a seat.
Yeah, it's hemorrhoids and stuff.
Yeah, and whatever the case,
blood flow.
There are lots
it's
of
true.
There are lots of health benefits to it.
Yeah,
but also it can be awful too.
Yeah.
Okay. It's difficult to get used to if you've grown up with Western toilets. These are some toilets.
Actually, I'm going to flip that on its head.
Right.
I'm not used to Western toilets anymore. I'm used to Japanese toilets now.
Oh, yeah,
because
exactly.
we've all invested
with the bidet,
in bidet.
bidet.
And heated and dried.
Yes.
With all the buttons on it. I can't use normal toilets anymore.
Now, what you're seeing behind us here is from the Beijing hutongs.
Yeah, this is downtown Beijing.
Yeah. This, honestly, I filmed this when I was in Beijing in 2019, just before I left. These are like very good toilets.
Yeah.
Okay, this is
an example of something good.
This is what you'll find in the tourist areas of the Hutong part of Beijing. Hutongs, for those of you who don't know, are these like alleyways, which is like the old traditional
like
Beijing.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. You walk down there, you get ripped off by tourist taxi.
Yeah, of course. I like the setup.
Yeah. Now, you can see it's nice and clean. One thing you might notice is the lack of privacy.
Oh, yeah. That's actually something. Do you know one time? Did I ever tell you this?
No.
One time I went into one of these, right?
Yeah.
And there was a bunch of people. There was a Chinese guy, of course.
Yeah.
Sitting there taking a shit, and he had a newspaper up, right? Which actually I thought was kind of clever. You're kind of like, at least you're shielding your face.
Yeah.
And I've never seen this in my whole life in China. This is what effed me up.
Yeah.
But there was like a 50-year-old man taking a shit. He was playing a Game Boy. Like an actual Game Boy.
Wow.
In exactly this setup. And I was like, what the because I never saw one in China.
That's bizarre.
Yeah,
that's
weird.
very bizarre. Yeah. Anyway, it's kind of crappy. No pun intended. But when you walk into one of these, you really need to go to the bathroom. Yeah. And there's like a couple of people taking a dump there, and it smells bad, and they're smoking cigarettes or whatever.
Oh, the worst is the ammonia smell.
Yeah. It's not something that I would always wait until there's no one else in there and just hope very quickly, like to get my stuff done. Hope nobody walks in because it's
100%.
Super embarrassing. But yeah, that's
or stand guard.
Yeah. Now that's a good example of
that's a great toilet.
Of like a good quality public toilet in Beijing.
Yeah, and there's even a sit-down toilet, which is rare. That's why you filmed it.
Yeah. The weird thing about the sit-down toilets that you find whenever they usually have one sit-down toilet. Even in the hospitals I used to go and work in when I used to train doctors and so on, they'd have one toilet that's a Western toilet. I'd be like, yes. And I'd open it up, but it's being used as a janitor's closet. It'd have the mops in it.
No one's using it.
Yeah, it'd be like unusable.
Or it's all effing broken.
Yeah.
Because people squat on
they stand on the toilet
and it breaks the seat off.
Yeah.
And then you don't want to sit on the bowl.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's show you some examples of why a toilet revolution is necessary.
Yeah.
Okay. Was this in Inner Mongolia?
Yeah.
Yeah, this particular.
It's actually key that you know that. Inner Mongolia, by the way, guys, so many people are confused. It's just a Chinese province.
Yes.
It's called Inner Mongolia.
Yeah.
We'll call it Neimungu.
That's kind of disgusting, to be fair.
I mean, that's not even a toilet at that point, but it's set up as one.
Yeah.
The veneer on the outside. By the way, it's on a main road.
Remember the smell, because I was filming this.
This is not rural. This is right outside of... I
mean, look. Yeah. That's not rural.
No, it's not. It was a nice place, and it was very wealthy.
Look at how nice those the hotel across the way there is.
This was right outside of Hailar.
Yeah.
Not outside. It's literally like right there next to the downtown section.
Yeah, exactly. This was... Where was this again? This was where we had those beautiful...
Heilongjiang.
Beautiful rice patties.
Oh, it's Liaoning.
It's Shandong, right?
No,
it's
Liaoning.
Liaoning. Okay.
Yeah. Liaoning up north. This is northern.
I feel like this is Shandong, but it might be Liaoning.
Right.
Whatever.
Rice patties are in Liaoning.
This is just a normal truck stop. Okay. The smell is something that is it's just undescribable. Indescribable. What would you say? Is it?
Yeah, no, it's indescribable.
It's indescribable. Sure. It's also undescribable. It's whatever. That's just a normal everyday truck stop toilet that you'll find when you're off the beaten path a little bit in China.
So what I wanted to do, the reason I brought this up is there's no reason to talk about how gross and bad toilets are unless there's a point to make.
I mean, I actually have a video that's called Chinese Toilets Are Wild, where this footage comes from. There's more.
Right, but you didn't make that video to show, hey, look at how gross this is.
No.
There is very important reasons to bring this up, and my important reason today to bring this up is that was just some random toilets we shot on some of our travels, right? Yeah. And the reason I want to bring this up is what you're looking at here is the toilet revolution.
Yeah, this is Xi Jinping's toilet revolution. So it's like, okay, now we're going to go and fix this, which I stand behind.
I absolutely support. If this is CCP, like, what's it called, doctrine?
Yeah,
I bow down, hammer and sickle on my heart.
Please, like, toilet revolution, it's
Leave it there.
Very
important that we look at this picture.
Okay, why?
Now, this is a government inspection of a great toilet revolution, right? Mm-hmm. And what I want you to see is if you guys have been around our channel at all, you'll know what the Laoban look is, the boss look, the boss attire. These are CCP officials.
This is the CCP Laoban look because they've got actual button-down shirts.
Top tier.
Now, a button-down shirt instead of a polo.
That's reserved for CCP.
Yeah, that
top
makes
dogs.
you CCP top dog.
Right, especially if you're up in the north.
The rest is all the same. It's just the shirt now becomes a button-up shirt.
Yeah, so look at this. Mm-hmm. You got the whole loafers, you got the kind of comfortable looking dress shoes that are actually dress shoes, you got the tucked in, but the most important part of this is the hands behind the back.
Yes.
And what they do is they'll go to where they're supposed to be observing something, like a new development, and they'll put their hands behind their back like that, and they'll look on, and they'll nod, they'll get the photo taken. And we've seen these faked before, by the way.
Sure.
Where they'll
the floating officials.
They'll take the photos, and then they'll leave, and then that's job done, right?
Yeah, look at the amount of TV cameras that are,
see that?
Focusing on them to say, look, something's being done. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, it's just a bunch of men standing around doing nothing.
They're going to go get drunk later. They have to get drunk.
They have to.
It's actually
so this is part of the toilet revolution. We've seen these pictures. This is supposed to be like we're putting in new toilets and
all these places that didn't previously have them, put a coat of paint on it, put a new toilet there. This is way too nice for what you're normally going to see.
It says Wei Shengjian, that means toilet up there. Or I guess restroom.
Yeah.
But we wanted to test this theory.
Yes.
So this toilet...
This is 1 year ago today.
1 year ago. So a friend of ours happened to be kind of up in near Hailar, where...
Almost exactly where we were.
Almost the same spot.
Yeah.
And we asked them, hey, listen, can you just go to a public bathroom and film for us?
By the way, we didn't tell them why. We didn't say we're going to do a 1 year update on the toilet
No. We're just like, we knew
he was going to be in the area.
Yeah. And this is what he gave us. I'm going to take us out of here so you can see.
2 weeks ago?
Yeah, this is about 2 weeks ago. Take a look. Cigarette butts on the floor.
This is off the main road.
Yeah.
Revolution achieved.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. We'll get back into that in a minute.
You can see it's been 1 year since the toilet revolution began. And the thing is, the reason I wanted to bring this up, can you put it on a key element here?
The cigarettes?
Sure, that's fine.
Get it back here.
I want to bring this up because you often see, and you'll see Western media be guilty of this as well. Mm-hmm. Just putting China on a pedestal, even if they want to kind of criticize China or the authoritarianism, they'll say no, but at least they get stuff done.
Yeah, green technology,
because they use the statistics from it, GDP numbers, technological achievements, space achievements, all of these achievements that technically China will write down on paper and then give to the rest of the world. People will take it verbatim.
Yeah,
they'll use that as an example of, hey, China's bad. All right, there's no rights, no freedom of speech, no freedom of religion, genocide, etc. But
at least they're doing this. At least this is, and again, China is very good at putting out this whole facade of things being amazing and good. Look at the high-speed rail.
Exactly, that's a good one. There was a facade for this toilet revolution thing because there were certain areas that they redid the toilets, and it looks very impressive. But when you actually have someone out there looking around at places that should have been improved, because it's been a year and there's a mandate, a lot of them were not, right? And that's just indicative of how China works. It's good enough for the newspaper and then the propaganda film, then you don't have to follow up on it. That's why you have no building maintenance. That's why stuff falls down. That's why you go outside of any main city center and China looks like a wildly different country.
Correct. So look, at the end of the day, what we're trying to show you here is that the promises that are made by the Chinese Communist Party are never kept, first of all. You can look
Rarely,
at every single
rarely
one.
kept.
Yeah, I'm going to just go out on a limb and say, like, never kept.
Well, I mean, you do have, like, if you went to some areas of Shenzhen or something, they're going to have new toilets in there
Yeah,
for the toilet revolution.
Yeah, but I'm talking about, it's supposed to be countrywide.
Yes, countrywide, yeah.
Okay? You can have people just going out there and saying China's lifted everybody out of poverty. In fact, that's a big talking point you always hear. But it's not true.
No.
You saw in last week's episode the rural village wedding. Yeah, because someone showed a rural village wedding, they got arrested. And you can see the dirt floors and the people living in poverty. It's just, they say something, and then they expect everybody to just buy it.
Yes.
Wholesale.
Yes.
And not question it.
Yeah.
And if you question it, somehow you're, I don't know, smearing China or anti-China or something. It's like, no. If you care about China, you want this kind of thing to change, you need to question it. Because if they say they're going to do it and they don't do it, and you show them this, like, hey, listen, this was taken 2 weeks ago. You said there was a toilet revolution. Why is there still this stuff going around? Yeah. Why can I still find this?
But the Great Toilet Revolution was declared a success.
Yeah.
A resounding success, and people clap and say Xi Jinping's awesome.
Yeah, and if you show this, you'll probably get arrested for, like...
you would. You would.
Whatever that is, like disturbing the social harmony and
spreading
stuff.
rumors.
Yeah, spreading rumors.
Because they would say, this isn't even in China.
Yeah.
Or something like this.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we've talked enough shit for a while. You know.
I thought that was kind of an important analogy, though.
Yeah, I thought it was a great opportunity to just show you guys that this stuff doesn't change. I guess we should save this for soft power. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's have a couple of super chats and we'll hit soft power, and then you're going to see what this whole nonsense is about. Don't forget, the reason you came here is for the big protests that have broken out. We're going to get to that.
We're getting to that, of course. Dude Bub says, 1 hour into the stream, it's my birthday in Germany. Cheers, guys. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Do you have any funny or interesting birthday stories from China to share? I do, but I can't share it. I can think of one specific one, but I cannot share it.
All right. Yeah.
And it's not anything bad. It's just like it's too embarrassing.
It's embarrassing, right? Yeah.
Bjork Bork says, Hyvä päivä, which means good day in Finnish.
Oh, cool.
Anthony Saint says, can we all chant down with the CCP? Now that would be music to my ears. I'll be honest with you, that song's pretty lame.
No, but that's not down with the CCP.
Oh,
like,
that's
take down
different.
The CCP.
Yeah, it's different.
He just wants to chant it. Down with
Go
the
ahead.
CCP, yeah.
Go ahead, Anthony. We appreciate you.
Yeah,
and thank
absolutely.
you for the donation. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah, we're good.
All right.
We'll catch up with Super Chats later.
We're doing this next?
Yeah.
Or okay. You want to do that now?
Yes.
Okay, so...
I want to ask you guys a question. Do you guys remember this?
Oh, yeah. Let's try to get out of the way there. What is that, Sea-Milk?
That is a donut.
It's
burger.
2 donuts.
Yeah. 2 donuts with a piece of Kentucky Fried Chicken in the middle.
It was literally the most disgusting thing I've ever eaten. Not taste-wise, but like made me feel gross.
No, but do you understand? It really actually took years off my life.
Yeah, I'm still recovering.
Yes, for sure. And I want to say thank you to a very rare opportunity for us. We don't get a whole lot of sponsors. This video is sponsored by Athletic Greens. And I would love to show you the product, but look, it's green. But anyway, it's a dietary supplement. It's fantastic stuff. And actually, I got you to try it for the first time today.
You know what? I can tell you one thing. It's definitely healthy.
Absolutely, for sure. So Athletic Greens is a scoop that you put in some water. And it's got 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. That's an interesting word. To help
is that
you start
a real
your day.
word?
It is.
Okay.
To help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All the things, right?
Well, I mean, you might find that stuff important and all those things you rattled off there. But I'll tell you what I think is important is trying to reverse some of the damage I've done to myself by just eating all this crap that's in America. Because I love it. That's my problem. Yes. America has got to be the number one country when it comes to inventing really unhealthy but amazing tasting junk.
100%.
And I love it. Yeah. And I've been eating this stuff. And I've gained a lot of weight. And I've become unhealthy.
Right.
So this is a good opportunity to cut back on that.
So I've been using it for a couple weeks now.
Okay.
And you put it like 12 ounces of water, you dump a scoop in there, and I like to take it before I eat anything.
Right.
And apparently it helps with absorption and stuff. But you get all those crazy vitamins that you need. And I usually take, I don't know about you, I usually take multivitamins.
I don't.
Okay. I don't have to do that anymore. And now you're actually not going to be malnourished and die very young.
Pizza's a multivitamin.
That's true. But this is much better, obviously.
Sure.
There's no extra sugar in it. I guess it's only got like 1 gram of sugar in it. And then tons of people do take multivitamins every day. So if you take this instead, it's much better absorption. If you're taking like a multivitamin pill, it's not going to absorb as much as you'd get in something like this. So very, very happy to work together and partner.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much, Athletic Greens. We very much appreciate it.
Yeah.
Very few brands actually stick their neck out to help sponsor us. So
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that any of you guys out there that perhaps are thinking of making your lifestyle a little healthier would consider them.
So right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. In just 1 scoop of cup of water every day, that's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D, which we got here, which is green, of course, and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/ADV. That's like adventure, ADV.
Yeah, ADV.
Again, that's athleticgreens.com/ADV to take ownership of your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Thank you very much.
Take ownership of that health.
Absolutely. And by the way, when you go and try it out, Athletic Greens, I can vouch for it. When you go do that, you're supporting us too. So we appreciate that.
Super appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Let's get on with the show.
Yes.
Let's hit Soft Power Hour. So Soft Power Hour is where we talk about the way China is trying to change your mind through media, behind the scenes stuff, everything in between. And we actually have a very good example of that right now. Some of you may have heard, not about this toilet, let's get past this, but
You're going to have to set this up.
okay.
Because this is so obscure.
Okay, well, let's just watch this footage for a second, okay? And then we'll explain it. Okay, we've got to start with that eagle screech once again. So let's just go a little bit back.
It sounded like ducks to me.
Well, yeah, let's see. Okay, here it goes.
New shipping hub in Northeast Asia. Reaching the world from Northeast China. Port of Dandong.
Okay, so the Port of Dandong thing is a bit of a long-running joke. We'll actually show you the advert, but any foreigner that lived in China, I don't know, circa 2006 all the way up to about 2014, thereabouts, 15, would have seen that advert. It's every time you stay in a hotel, every time you turn on the TV, somewhere along the lines, if you're watching an English channel, like CCTV4 used to be English, then it changed to CCTV9, right?
Yes.
Whenever you're currently, watching the TV in English, it'll pop that ad on. So everybody knows this damn Port of Dandong advert. It's freaking annoying. But that's not actually what we're talking about here. Let me get my notes up here just in case I need them. If my computer will wake up. It doesn't want to wake up. It's being annoying. There it is. Okay. Okay, anyway. What we're talking about is China has just released its newest aircraft carrier, which you can see over here. Now, there's some very important things about this new aircraft carrier. Okay, first of all, this is the unveiling ceremony, of course, that you can see going on here. But it's China's first real sort of homegrown aircraft carrier. I mean, when we say real homegrown one, it means it's not a direct copy of a Soviet aircraft carrier. Okay, because their first aircraft carrier that they ever released back in 2012, I believe it is. Let me just get past the stupid opening ceremony. I actually put a thing together where we can see.
People loved your dub.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Okay, let's just talk about the Port of Dandong.
Can I say something about this?
Yeah, sure.
So I've seen this probably 2,000 times.
At least.
Maybe more.
At least.
It was the most played thing I've ever seen in my life. They really wanted people to ship out of Dandong, which is right next to North Korea, by the way.
Yeah, it is. It's right up there. Should we just play the ad?
Yeah, let's see it first.
Okay, we'll get back to the aircraft carriers in a minute, guys. All right, so here's the Port of Dandong. Here it is. Somewhere. Is it coming? We got to just also, first of all, talk about the fact that ducks don't screech like a freaking eagle.
I thought we were just going to play it out and then criticize that. But yeah, they literally put a red-tailed hawk screech.
It's actually, it's a red-tailed hawk.
Over ducks flying from a pond.
Yes.
And that's Port of Dandong.
I feel like those ducks, that footage isn't from China anyway.
Absolutely not. There's no ducks there. Right. There's only ducks on duck farms. You know what's funny is actually did I tell you? It was probably a few months ago.
Okay.
I had a debate with a Chinese friend about, we were talking over WhatsApp, and she said that ducks cannot fly, like physically incapable. So I sent her video of me in a park here showing her ducks flying, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, "What? That's not a duck." And I'm like, "These are ducks."
Yeah.
And she's like, "No, ducks do not fly." Because she was convinced, because ducks are only on duck farms in China.
Yeah.
You've seen that, and they have those nets around.
Yeah,
so I never see them fly.
Sure.
Anyway.
Yeah. So we got the ducks flying.
New shipping hub in Northeast Asia. Reaching the world from Northeast China. Port of Dandong.
Port of Dandong became like a massive meme in the expat community.
Yeah, because everybody's seen it.
Everyone knows.
No one cares about it.
No one has ever looked up more information after that.
Yeah.
Ever.
Think about it, like, okay, if you're somebody who does logistics or something, you got a big logistical company, maybe you would. But the majority of foreigners sitting in China, they are like English teachers, backpackers.
Even businessmen, they're not going to go use Port of Dandong.
No, they won't. Like, that's not their business.
No.
Their shipping logistics will be taken care of by
the locals,
like actual logistics companies.
And there's no. They should make a freaking Chinese version of Port of Dandong commercial, because if you think about it, just think about this for 2 seconds. There are not very many foreigners in China. I think it's less than 1% of the entire population.
Yes.
Yet they had this running all day, every day for more than 10 years.
Yes. Yeah. I
love
remember there's a rather derogatory thing about some girl that they ended up calling the Port of Dandong that was hanging out all the foreigners. But anyway.
For real?
Yeah.
That was the thing.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's go back to the aircraft carriers. We now have, in 2012, they released their first aircraft carrier, which is not a Chinese aircraft carrier. It's a retrofitted Soviet aircraft
Looks
carrier.
cool. It goes like a half pipe. It's like whoosh.
Yeah, it's a different launching system.
Sure.
So it's got this
Not
kind
those
of
catapults.
ramp. Yeah, that was called the Liaoning.
Yeah.
And, it was China's first ever aircraft carrier. They made a huge deal out of it. But there was also a lot of issues reported later on, because when it would come into, to port to stay in certain places, people take photographs, see a lot of rust.
What was the Minsk one? That one I went
It's the same class.
Where is that one now?
It's still hanging out there.
It's still hanging out. Okay.
It's kind of abandoned.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a Minsk class. Anyway.
It's called okay.
So it's pretty much, I think it's the same thing. Anyway, in 2017, they released their second one, which is called the Shandong. Okay, and these are, by the way, are province names. Yeah, of course. So let's take a look here, which was the first homegrown, so to speak. But I got to ask you something here. Okay, I'll show you in a second. See, they got that kind of.
It's like a half pipe.
Yeah.
It's like a quarter pipe.
It's just a different way of
I
launching.
want to do some sick tricks off of it.
The thing is, that homegrown one, the Shandong, is exactly the same as the Liaoning. If you look at it.
It's not homegrown.
It is. It's fully Chinese built.
Oh, okay. I got you. It wasn't donated, you're saying.
Yeah. But if you look at them side by side, it's like a carbon copy.
Right.
But this one is different, okay? This new one that's just been released, which is called the Fujian.
Fujian is the province, by the way. Can I throw this in there?
Sure.
Is the province that faces Taiwan. So just think about that.
There's also something else that's kind of significant, is if you travel around the world and you find Chinese people in Japan, for instance, or in the UK or wherever you go.
I was actually recently again in Ithaca.
Yeah.
And I met Chinese people yet again from Fujian.
Yeah.
Runaway immigrants, though.
It's
stowaways.
Historically, it has been a place for people to escape China from. Okay, and to travel out of China from, because it's on the coast.
Yeah.
But for some reason, the Fujianese people are very well traveled.
Yes.
Like, out of all the people in China, the Chinese people that made it across the world the most are people from Fujian. So I think that they called it this for a reason, because this is now their aircraft carrier that can go, all the way out there and go everywhere. There's a couple of things that we need to point out, though. I want you to look carefully at the footage. Because this is now they've released it. Oh, here's our new aircraft carrier. It's done type thing. It's completely hollow. There's nothing inside any of this stuff. These kind of, what would you call them? Tents almost that you've got on the deck are covering up the launch ramps. Yeah. Because they, for the first time ever, have actually put in electromagnetic catapults. That's what they say. There's no evidence of it here. You can't see it. No. And they're either blocking that because they don't want anyone to, get the military intel or whatever.
Dimensions or something, even though all satellite imagery is going to see that.
Or it's not there yet, which is what I'm betting on. Because if you take a look at the state of this, if you really take a look at the state of this aircraft carrier, Oh, by the way, these are the previous, the Liaoning and the Shandong. You see what I mean? I'll get us out of there. You see what I mean by they're just the same thing?
Yeah.
Absolutely everything about them is the same.
Well, one was Russian built and one was
Yeah,
Chinese built.
one was a retrofitted Soviet one,
Okay.
or Russian one, whatever you want to call it. And then one was completely built in China, the Shandong. Okay. Anyway, so this new one that's come out, like I said, take a close look. And you'll notice that it's very far from being completed as far as I
yet
can
they're
tell.
celebrating that it's...
Yeah, they've just launched, done that whole ceremony.
But all the propaganda banners, though.
I mean, look, the paint's not even dried on it. But look at that command tower. I got to say, if you look at that, it looks like it's a hollow structure.
Yeah.
Isn't a roof on it, and you can look right down into it. I don't think that's normal. I feel like it's like a prop. You know, like a ghost city when you've got those empty, you know what I mean? Those like empty buildings, just like a concrete husk, but it's got a veneer on it.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like that, doesn't it?
It does. It really does.
I'm not
It's
saying...
kind of chop it off, yes.
Look at the paint's not dry there yet.
There.
There are no actual parking bay markings on it or whatever. But the reason why I'm pointing this stuff out, I'm not trying to be petty here, because sure, it's probably going to end up being all completed soon.
Of course.
But the fact that now, if you look at the press, everyone's like, oh my goodness, China has just released an aircraft carrier that rivals U.S.
That's what I
aircraft
keep
carriers.
seeing. This is actually what came up on my radar, no pun intended.
Yeah.
Was that people were reaching out saying like, uh-oh, better report on this. Like China just made an aircraft carrier that competes with the U.S. and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I had you look into it.
Yeah, but I'm looking at it and like, this is not going to compete with anything right now. It's not finished.
Not at the moment. No.
It's just not finished yet. Like
Right.
from all this, and this is current footage. There's a couple of things about this as well which don't stack up. Like the fact that it's not nuclear powered.
No, it's diesel, right?
It's conventional, uses
Yeah.
conventional propulsion, which probably means diesel or whatever other
Sure.
kind of fuel. It's got a range of 10,000 nautical miles, I believe, which is a lot. You could go around the globe or whatever. But the thing is, you are still... Whoops, let's go back. You are still kind of subject to refueling.
Yeah.
So if there was a prolonged conflict and it got out there in the world somewhere in the seas and, they couldn't get a refueling tanker or something to it, then they'd be dead in the water. Whereas the U.S. equivalent aircraft carrier is nuclear powered and can run indefinitely. There's no range to it. It just can keep going as long as
you're talking about you have supplies flowing
as long as
in.
you get supplies flown in. I mean, let's be honest, like if the people really needed to, they could fish off the side, I'm just saying, like you're stuck out there, whatever. But you absolutely will need food supplies and fresh water and all that. But they've got desalination and stuff built into it. And it's all that kind of nonsense aside, there still are quite a few differences between the two.
Mm-hmm.
So for everyone to come out and say, oh my God, look at this, China's just released an aircraft carrier that rivals
That's what I'm seeing.
and is exactly the same or better than the American counterparts.
Right.
It's not true because, again, none of the technology has been tried and tested yet, battle tested. The paint's not even dry, as you can see from this footage. The control tower is still hollow.
This just came out, by the way, from state media.
Yeah, this is state media put this out. If you go back to this footage that I was showing a little earlier, where you can actually see the control tower, like, is it here? Is it here? Is it here? Where was it? No, I'm going way too far back here, guys. You're seeing our entire media pack. I just want to get that footage where they flew a drone over the, near the control tower. I wonder if it's here. Hopefully it's here. Look closely. Like the windows are completely hollow and empty, and you can't see any equipment in there.
It reminds me of a ghost town.
Yeah, like I
those
said
apartment
earlier.
blocks.
Yeah, just like a concrete shell. Look at that. You can see right through it. So what I'm just trying to say here is that it's too early to jump the gun and say, hey, guys, look, it's ready. We can't see the runways. We can't see the catapult systems. They may not exist.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah, because the thing is, when I was looking at the spec sheets, it's like uses so-and-so catapult system, but it's not there.
Yeah, well,
So
we can't see.
Well, but I'm saying like then let's see it, right?
It can travel up to 56 kilometers an hour.
Well, let's see it.
Let's see it.
it's
Where's
still
the
dark.
tests? Yeah, it's not out there yet, right?
No.
Like, how do we know this stuff? It can carry, what was it, like 84 planes or something like that. Well, let's see it. That's the thing. Again, people are just taking China's word for it and running with it, and people are going like, "Oh my goodness, it's so terrible." There's this like really big aircraft carrier out there.
Not to mention, another thing that's really important is I think most people don't realize the scope of corruption within the Chinese military. It runs like the rest of the country. It's incredibly corrupt, and there's so much cost cutting, so many pockets being lined to the point where I'm telling you guys, the richest people in the country are military generals. Unlike in the West, which they make a salary.
Sure.
Right? The people, when you meet a PLA military general, their kids drive Ferraris, and they live in the utmost wealth you've ever seen.
Yes.
Right. So you have to keep that in mind. How are they getting the wealth? Well, it's cost cutting. Things like, and I'm not saying none of this is going to work.
Of course.
I'm not saying that China has a very large and scary military. Of course they do.
Yeah.
But there is a lot to be taken with a grain of salt.
Right.
You can't just look at spec sheets and say, okay, this is what this is how it's gonna work.
Yeah. I mean, it's dangerous to discount, the Chinese military because, of course, their technology works. Of course, they
are a force to be reckoned with.
They've got very dangerous technology when it comes to, mainly because they've successfully copied very good technology that's out there. So they've got a copy of it, and they're very good at adding new extra features like drone spoofing or, there's a lot of stuff that the Chinese military can do to really make their military formidable.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can't
adding on new stuff.
And you can't just say like, look, it's rubbish. It's not a threat. You have to treat it as a real threat if you're a military person. Absolutely. But at the same time, if you know China well enough, and if you look at this footage and so on, you also realize that there's a lot of hype about nothing right now.
It's for a reason, right? It's propaganda. It's quotas. Somebody said we have to get this out at a certain date.
Yeah, especially with the tensions with Taiwan right now. Of course, they want to get this out there to say, we're the big boy on the block. Don't mess with us. We're coming out there. Look at our great aircraft.
It actually ties in with something I'm going to mention later.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway, let's move on from aircraft carriers because now, guys, it is time for us to talk about the main topic which you all came here for. Protests.
Make sure you're watching. Make sure you don't click off because this is the main event.
Okay, so let's talk about protests for a minute. Okay, first of all, I think all of us know that protesting in China is kind of a no-no. You can't do it.
Not just kind of a no-no. There's a weird legal framework. Let me set this up because you know about what's happening.
All right.
To protest in China, you have to register with the government, and it has to be about something that they approve. And pretty much the only things you can protest about that they actually have specific government departments. I actually worked with a woman that worked for the Chinese government. She wasn't official.
Yeah.
But she worked in a government office, and what they would do was specifically deal with the protests about property, right? So that's pretty much all you're allowed to protest about, property. And then when the government chooses a country to hate, they will actually stoke protests.
Yeah, like anti-Japanese protests.
Like anti-Japan or anti-America or anti-Philippines or Korea. What they'll do is stoke protests like this and manage them.
Yeah.
So that people are not paying attention to what's happening domestically. It's usually when something bad's happening within the borders of China.
Right.
So anyway, like I said, I worked with this woman, and her job was to make sure that the people registered properly if they're going to go protest about property. Like basically, when a real estate company digs out an area where they don't want to move, these people don't want to move to these like nail houses in the middle of nowhere. They have to the property company always wins,
of course.
But the people will go and they'll line up with their placards and say, "Oh, down with the property company."
Or there's another property-related protest is if you put a deposit down on a house, and then they realize that they're not selling enough, so they'll bring the deposit down to attract more buyers. The people that paid the bigger deposits get all pissed off, like, why did we pay more if you're now offering it for less?
Correct.
And then they get together and they'll have a protest outside the government area or whatever.
You might want to know why that those specific things are allowed. Well, I give you the reason why anti-country protests are allowed, xenophobic protests are allowed. It's because they want Chinese people to be xenophobic to the rest of the world.
It really bonds everyone together. Because when you've got a common enemy, you tend to look past the things that are affecting you in your life and your own government. If you've got that common enemy, you all stand together as one, creates national unity. It's something the Chinese government uses time and time again.
Now, what I want to explain to you is why would you allow property protests or something like this, right? And manage those ones? Well, the reason is that oftentimes the villain is the property company, and they'll allow the people to make a hero out of the government. Right. So they're never anti-government protests. That's what people have to understand.
You're not allowed to.
You're not allowed to have anti-government protests. The government, in fact, they'll use insignia from the government to say, like, we are standing up for our rights because
they'll sing the Chinese national anthem.
Communist Party is on our side. You guys are the evil capitalists, blah, 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 right? You are not allowed to have protests against officials or the government or anything of the sort. You will not only will it be shut down, but you will be thrown in jail.
Yes.
Or you will be disappeared if it's big enough, right? So it's not to say this stuff doesn't happen, but it's rare. And that's what you guys have to understand is that this is not what we're about to show you doesn't happen often. This is very rare that something is it's not allowed to proliferate.
Yeah.
They're trying to shut it down.
This was not allowed, by the way.
No, but they found a very interesting way to shut it down.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually going to be what they're going to do going forward.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So let's just roll the clip a little bit. What they're saying is, give us back our money, okay? High water Qian, and then they're shouting the name of the bank. And this is a terrible thing that's happened, by the way. Okay, I'm just going to pause it there so I can give you a background. So this bank in Henan, there's actually 2 banks, I believe, that are involved in this. But word started to spread a while ago that these banks were very good for investing in. They had financial packages, in other words, investment opportunities that you'd get good returns on. But not only that, if you deposit your money in the bank, you'll get a high interest rate. I think it was like 4.6% or something, right?
Yeah. It was big.
Yeah. So basically what was happening is people were getting a lot of interest. So one thing that happens in China that happens a lot is when something starts to catch on, it gets shared and everybody follows. It's kind of like a sheep mentality. And I can say that without worrying about insulting or anything, because that is how it works. That's how the peer-to-peer lending thing took off. Yeah. That's how the stock market took off there. Whenever someone's making a little bit of money on something, and look at the real estate sector, it's the same thing. Yeah. Everybody and their dog will get involved because they're like, hey, you can make money if you invest in peer-to-peer lending. Suddenly everyone, the street cleaners, the bank tellers themselves, people in high positions, low positions, medium positions, every single person will now start to invest in peer-to-peer lending in some way or another. And then, or the bicycle sharing thing that came out and was terrible. And then it just collapses after a while because it's not sustainable when you've got too many people, trying to do the same thing. So this kind of went around, and a lot of people, not in this province, by the way, a lot of them were people in bigger cities like Guangdong, the province of Guangdong, so Shenzhen, Guangzhou, those kind of places. They decided that it would be a good idea to invest because they'd heard through all their groups and all their WeChat groups and all their discussion things that it's good. You invest in these banks, you get a good return. So people did it 100% legally. There's no dodgy business going on here. They go open a bank account, they put their money in that bank account, they save up, and they put their money in there because they know they're getting a good interest rate. Some people bought the financial packages they had, the investment packages, basically. So then they invested in and bought this and that and the next thing. All of a sudden, people go to their online banking and their accounts, first of all, they can't access their accounts. And those who can, it says there's zero money in there, right? What are you going to do? I mean, it's the same as if you're in America, you have a Chase Bank or Bank of America or, Wells Fargo or whatever it is, and you deposit your money because it's a bank and you have trust in a bank.
Yeah, it's a bank. I mean, you go to the bank to put your money there, right? And
by the way, this bank is also backed by one of the big state banks in China. So
people aren't going to look into past that, right?
Of course. They're like, oh, it's connected. The major shareholder in these smaller banks is this big bank, government-connected bank, so it's safe. So it's like you having a Wells Fargo account, for instance. You deposit $100,000 in there, and all of a sudden one day you go to check your balance, and the balance is either zero or it says, sorry, the website's down. You go to an ATM, you try to draw your money, sorry, you can't draw your money.
Imagine going to the ATM, and it's not like this ATM's out. You go to the next one and the next one.
And every time it says, sorry, like your funds are not available. And then you go into the teller.
It gets worse, doesn't it?
And you go and you ask them, hey, can you give me my bank balance? And they're like, no.
Why?
Because it's no longer there. So what happened was, due to this happens quite a lot, usually with companies and things like the bicycle sharing and stuff, you'll get a corrupt management body, either the CEO or some managers or whatever the case, and they basically steal the money and run. And that's what happened. Money got stolen and ran. So everyone's like, how can this happen? It's tied to this big national bank. They are the major stakeholders. They all go complain to that bank, and they're like, well, we may be the main stakeholder or shareholder of this sort of private bank, but we don't control what they do. That's good. We wash our hands of that. It's got nothing to do with us. So everyone's like, wait, what? Then they're like, what about depositors insurance? because the big state-owned bank has something called depositors insurance. So basically, if something goes wrong and the bank goes under, each person is entitled to 500,000 RMB worth of insurance on their money.
So like 80 grand.
Yes, but even if you've got like 200 grand in there, you can at least get 80 grand as your depositors insurance. And they're like, well, the money never came into our bank, so we don't have depositors insurance on that. So they're basically
they can walk away from it.
Yeah, they're basically saying, get out of here. And you know what? They're blaming the customers. They're like,
they're calling them stupid.
Yeah, they're like, you should have not been greedy. You should have checked properly.
Yeah, I was reading through some of the statements in Chinese, and they basically can translate it like this: you guys are too stupid to read the fine print.
Yeah,
that's basically what they said.
They've now, like, the banking regulators in China and the big banks and so on are now basically putting out a message that it's not up to them to do their job. It's up to you as the consumer to do your job. Yeah. You should go in and check all these banks and make sure that they've got liquidity and all this other nonsense, which is ridiculous. So it's a lot of money. It's like $6 billion US dollars. It was 400 billion or whatever it is. It's $6 billion US dollars worth of money is gone.
Yeah, just vanished.
It's like people have deposited their money in the banks and now they can't get it. And please understand that this is not something like, oh, somebody decided to put it. We're talking about people's life savings here.
Yeah.
And there's this awful thing that happens in China, and it happens all the time, is when people start to see that they're getting some kind of return on their money, they're like, this is a great idea. Let me go and talk to my family. Let me go talk to my cousins, my uncles, my grandparents, my this and that. Let's get everyone's life savings together. I will deposit it in my bank account because now I'm getting a good return and we can all make money. And people do that. They all that's how they buy houses as well. It's like extended family all put their savings into something.
And it's why you see so many people jumping off buildings.
Yeah.
It's around things like this. Most
so, often. You can imagine your average person, hardworking person is scrimping and saving and they put their money into this bank because...
It's just a bank.
Yeah.
It's a bank.
Number one...
I wouldn't look at it.
It's supposed to be safe.
Would you look at a bank?
No.
And be like, no, of course not. It's a bank.
No, I'm not going to go to M&T Bank or whatever down the road here. Yeah. I don't know anything about them, but it looks like I see a building.
Right.
I'm like, that's a bank.
Right.
I can open an account.
Give me your TOS.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, show me your liquidity bonds, investment.
The average person's not going to do that.
And the average person is not educated in finance.
Right.
Okay, the average person, I'm not. And the average person in China in a small 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th tier city is not going to be like, oh, show me your... whatever, futures and securities and, they're not going to sit there and analyze this stuff. They're like,
I want to put my money in here.
Yeah,
exactly.
This is a good bank. Let's put our money in. We can get some money out. So basically what we're saying is it's an awful tragedy. It caused a bank run. For those of you who don't know what a bank run is, it's a terrible thing. A bank run is when people are worried about the stability of a bank and they all go try to withdraw their money, which... in most cases, if that happens, it's a big indicator of an economic collapse or a recession.
Because of devastation.
Some economic collapse and devastation. Yeah. The thing is, people run in there and they try to withdraw their money. Well, guess what? People are running in there, but they can't withdraw anything. So it's awful. And this is kind of still a developing situation, but the be-all and the end-all...
it just started in a way. Yeah.
The be-all and the end-all of this particular situation is it looks like both the government regulators and the banks, the big banks and stuff, are like, well, it's not our problem, piss off.
Yeah.
Which is awful. And this, because, the corrupt people did run away with the money.
Yeah.
This is potentially the start of something terrible in China. Now, what you can see behind us is the next part of this whole equation we have to talk about. People are being arrested for protesting. It's not too violent or anything, but, just YouTube so you don't demonetize us as usual.
It's not violent.
Look, we censored it for you.
It's just them. We did this for you.
Someone putting them in like
fighting.
Police vans. They just, it's okay. For those of you.
Okay, YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube. Don't demonetize it just because someone's being put in a van. But they're arresting people.
Yeah.
But now here's probably the worst part of all of this. Okay, is that in order to prevent people from going out and protesting, the people that were planning to go out and protest all of a sudden found out that their health QR codes turned red.
Let me run this down real quick.
Yeah.
your health QR code is what you have to show on your phone to get inside of buildings, shops, public transportation, to be out anywhere.
Yeah.
You have to have a green QR code. And what that tells the government and people, gatekeeping and stuff is that you don't have COVID, you didn't have COVID, right?
Hey, in a lot of places, if your QR code turns red, they take you to a quarantine facility.
Yeah, you get thrown in one of those camps.
It's basically like being put in jail.
It's basically like being put in jail with a bunch of sick people.
Yeah.
Now, what they can do and what people were speculating was, hey, this thing might get out of control. This whole QR code thing, the government running QR codes to allow people to live their lives.
Yeah.
It could get out of control and they could start controlling it.
Yeah.
We're now seeing that happen.
Yeah, because it's a fantastic tool for the Chinese government. Oh, these people are organizing to protest. We got all these pissed off people lost their fortune, and they're going out there. They're causing trouble. Guess what? Everyone that's involved just changed their QR code to red, and then they can't go anywhere. They can't do anything, and we have an excuse to lock them up.
They have to quarantine by law.
Yeah.
So they go beep. Everyone goes.
Everyone's red.
Just imagine. Everyone goes red. You're gone.
Yeah.
That's how they shut it down, and it's very efficient.
Yeah.
Right. They don't have to take one person down or find out the protest leader or anything. They just take everyone, and you're gone. You're out.
It's an absolutely awful situation. And it's ripe for abuse by an authoritarian government because there are no checks and balances. Mm-hmm. What do you think is going to happen? People are going to be like, oh, they turned our health codes red because they didn't want us to protest.
Yeah.
Who do you complain to?
No one.
Because it's the government that did that. They did it.
And they did it to stop the protests and protect this thief bank.
Yes.
Think about it. It. You have a government that has so much control. They can make you sick by law. They can make you sick by law so that you can't complain about the fact that you just lost $1 million at a bank that they supported.
Yes.
That's dystopia.
Yeah.
It's insane. And it's a small, I think personally, it's a time bomb for a lot of other banks. Because a lot of these banks, it wasn't just in Henan that these were set up like this.
No, of course
There's a lot of banks in Eastern China that are set up like this too.
Yeah, never mind that. Just there are so many parts of the Chinese economy that are faltering. But what we're seeing here is, as usual, the Chinese government is running around putting out fires. Now, in most normal societies, this would have caught on like wildfire.
Yeah.
Think about it. If you were in America here, right? And we hear that people can no longer access their Wells Fargo bank.
Sure.
Okay? Nobody can access their money. Would that not prompt you to go to your bank, no matter what brand it is, and get your money out?
Of course.
Absolutely.
100%.
I would. I'd be like, if a bank like that's backed by the government and has all this regulated nonsense and it's approved and all that, if that bank can go down, my bank can go down too. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that would worry the crap out of me.
Right.
And that's something that would catch on.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what country.
No.
But look what's happening in China is you don't see people running off to like the China Merchants Bank or ICBC or whatever.
No.
They're not running off to take their funds out. You know why? Because it's contained.
Correct.
And they're like, oh, these idiots, they just made a mistake by investing in this insecure bank. Don't worry, everything's fine, right? And then they delete all the discussion about it. People are not allowed to talk about the protest. And most people just don't even bother. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like it's not like a big, huge, what's it called? Like a Wells Fargo, like you said.
Yeah.
It'd be like that Farmers Bank of Pennsylvania or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? You have something small like that, but it's attached to something much larger where you trust.
Yeah.
Right? The people's understanding of that probably stops there.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to, like you said, you're not going to be digging around looking at like, oh, so this is not actually, the money's not actually going to stay here or whatever.
Dude, seriously, even if it's a small but a fairly popular bank here in the US, if that stops people from withdrawing their money, it's going to have a knock-on effect, and lots of people are going to start being concerned, at the very least, very concerned about their savings and investments, and it would probably spark off some kind of a bank run, a mass bank run. And this is something that, under normal circumstances, would have happened in China. But because the Communist Party of China has so much control over the media and over the protesters and locks them up like that, gets rid of them like that, it doesn't have that knock-on effect. And it's the same with the real estate market. When things start to falter in a certain area, look at Evergrande, for goodness sake. So many people lost their money because of Evergrande, but it hasn't caught on. The rest of the people aren't like, oh, well, Evergrande, but I bought a property through a different company, so it's okay. They don't seem to understand that it's all one system and it's all based off the same crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a good point.
So the Communist Party is, of course, running around putting out fires all over the place and just band-aids over everything.
Yeah.
But the Chinese economy definitely is faltering in many different sectors, you know.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
This is a huge telltale sign. So,
Right.
you know, watch the space.
Definitely.
And if you are invested in China, consider moving your investments out.
Yeah. Consider
Seriously.
it.
Consider it. I'm not here to give financial advice, but you know, just consider it. You know, you might be in for a rough time in the near future.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess that's our soft power hour.
It is.
So, are we going to get some super chats?
Yeah, let's do it.
Good stuff.
Mary Mauney, thank you very much. David Brooks, Winston, will you ever go back to South Africa one day?
Hey, listen, I always told myself no.
Mm.
I told myself out of principle, no, I don't want to go back to South Africa. But you never know. There may be a chance that I go back for a short period of time or a long period of time. You never really know. But as it stands right now, if I can avoid going back to South Africa ever again in my entire life, I will do so.
Gotcha. I'm sorry, just somebody sent a Korean message, so I got to translate it.
Okay. I mean, and look, the reason is I've got a lot of bitter memories about South Africa, and I really don't like the country, and I don't want to support the current government or anything like that by going there and spending my money there and all that kind of stuff. But also, it's just painful memories. I've lost friends and, you know, family and so on there. I just don't want anything to do with that country.
The Korean message, I'm going to actually play it with audio.
Okay.
And you're going to guess what it says.
Okay. What? Oh. Peter Ballsack.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. So there's someone who's very creative over there.
Nice. That's actually very smart.
That's great.
Like
yeah.
that. We do have a lot of fans in Korea. We'll come
Yeah. I
visit
mean,
you
don't
at some
forget Ballsack over here is one of the people that was involved in covering up the spread of COVID and still is to this day. He's got a lot to answer for one of these days.
Yes. Do you know that we have more fans in Korea than we do in even Taiwan, which I thought was interesting?
That's bizarre.
Korea is like a big fan base for us.
That's fantastic. We love...
I'm a huge fan of Korea.
Absolutely love Korea. We can't wait to go.
Can't wait to go with
That's
you.
going to be
It's
one
gonna
of
be
our,
so
you know,
fun.
one of our trips in the future, one of our little documentaries. We've been planning it for a long time. Anyway, should we move on?
Let me just do a couple here.
Okay, a couple more.
MLP, congrats, the new sponsor. We'll check them out now. Thank you very much. athleticgreens.com/ADV.
Yeah, look, and we do look up our sponsors as well. And they've been around since 2012. It's not some
Something
new
like that,
flash in
yeah.
the pan thing.
No, it's awesome. It's
Yeah.
actually awesome, and I like the product. Right, we would never, ever, ever sell you anything that we don't use ourselves, or that we at least recommend. And I use it. So.
Yeah.
David Brooks, can your wives ever see their families again? We don't talk about our wives here, and I'm
Yeah.
not joking. Like we decided to keep that out. It's
Yeah,
not something
it's
we do.
better. You know, the reason our wives don't appear in our social media or anything like that is just because they get harassed.
Yeah.
So anything that we
It's
say
annoying.
about
From
them,
the tankies and
yeah,
the
anything we
Wumaos.
say about them or mention about them will end up back in some stupid hit piece on us. So we don't need that stress.
Matt Boycott, hello from Windsor, Canada.
thanks.
Land of the Chef's Kiss, Aurora.
Yes, the Aurora.
The Aurora.
Pride of
Someday
Canada.
you guys will get joysticks in there, and you'll get color on your screens.
Yeah, maybe someday.
I think it's scheduled for 2150.
Yeah, it'll still be around.
David Brooks,
Fantastic plane.
Do you have a favorite Chinese candy? I do. Peanut crisp logs. Love those. You know those crispy things at Chinese New Year? They're like made of peanut butter. Those are tasty.
I'll just go the easy one, the White Rabbit.
Those are okay. I think those are mad overrated. But you know what I used to do?
Yeah.
Because they're too hard and chewy. I would put them on the power brick of my laptop, and they would like soften up, and then I would eat.
That's interesting. I just like the fact you can eat that like rice paper that's
Yeah, it's
around
fun.
it.
It's
Yeah.
fun. Okay.
Okay, excellent. Let's move on to Wumao Corner, which we talk about, you know, the haters and what on earth is our topic today? It doesn't even look like haters to me.
Well, it is.
Is it?
It absolutely is. It's the most biggest king of the Wumaos, and I'm not being facetious.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. A lot of times in the Wumao, so by the way, if you guys are new here, a Wumao is a paid internet troll that fights for the Chinese government.
Yes.
Sometimes unpaid. They could be Zigang Wumao,
Yeah.
which means they're
Volunteer, or
Zigang means like volunteer.
Yeah,
right?
volunteer Wumao.
Anyway, long story short, they
Self-motivated.
Self-motivated. That's actually what
Yeah,
it is. Yeah,
self-motivated.
self-motivated Wumao. So anyway, there's a thing that Wumao do is they'll use CCP talking points, Chinese Government Party talking points. Where do they stem from? They're always going to stem from the Chinese government, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the mouthpiece of the Chinese government, the big dog, the top dog, of course, Xi Jinping.
Yes.
Right? Now, Xi Jinping...
Oh, do we have that thing?
Oh, yeah, I
sent
do.
us?
I'll get it.
Just drag it out. We got to show it. we do occasionally, if people contact us, we do occasionally get, if we trust people enough that they're not going to send us anthrax or something, we get things sent. And a brilliant subscriber actually made this, I think it's maybe injection molded, resin, 3D printed, whatever the case
It
is.
looks like injection mold.
Maybe. It's hard to tell, but it's very cool. It's Xi Jinping eating honey out of a pot. So this is going to be now part of our office decor.
Did you read the actual pot?
It says oppression.
Instead of honey.
Yeah, he's eating oppression. He loves oppression.
So
anyway,
thank you.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool.
Anyway, the man himself,
Mm-hmm.
Xi Jinping, unfortunately put out something that's very worrying. I'm not the kind of guy that gets like worked up over this kind of stuff because I just know how many false flags China uses all the time and how much bullshit they throw out there to try to get people rubbed up. But I will say this. This is a bit worrying because of the language that was used. Originally, this came on our radar maybe a week or two ago, and we read it in Chinese. And I actually got a little bit of chills because the language used really reminded me of Putin's invasion. And I'll tell you why. Eventually, Global Times put out an English version of this, so we put it up here for you guys to read. But it says, Xi signs outlines that direct China's military operations other than war. And what this is it sets a framework for all of these military provisions and tasks for the military that are not related to war. And I'd like to read a couple of those.
Yeah, please do, because it is worrying.
It says, by carrying out these operations overseas, in some cases, these Chinese troops can prevent spillover effects of regional instabilities from affecting China to securing vital transport routes for strategic materials like oil or safeguard China's overseas investments. Projects and personnel, analysts said, noting that this is likely why Xinhua, which is state media, described the outlines as being capable of safeguarding China's national sovereignty, security, and development interests. If you start this article, you'll look at it and you'll say, oh, they want to do things. I'm going to quote, I'll translate here. Yeah. They want to prevent natural disasters. They want to send troops to stop people that are affected by earthquakes, floods. These things that happened in China recently, disaster relief and aid, monetary aid in Chinese armed forces that can help them, and even help countries like Tonga, Tonga. Yeah. It's actually pronounced Tonga. Do you know that?
Tonga.
It really is.
How Tonga?
It's not. You don't say the G.
Okay.
But anyway, helping countries like Tonga, which was hit by volcanic eruption, and giving countries COVID-19 vaccines, right? So you would read that, and you might even stop there because it's so gosh darn boring. And you're like, okay, so they're just going to get the military in their downtime to go help stuff, help people out, humanitarian aid. Yeah. But again, what I read to you earlier is actually what this is about. It's about safeguarding China's national sovereignty and security and development interests. What does that actually translate to?
Well, when I heard the part about their international investments, how many African countries and places around the world do they have, like, I don't know, mines or some kind of infrastructure or something?
Yes.
So this would kind of give them the excuse to go and put military troops on the ground in different countries around the world under the guise of protecting their investments.
Yes.
Right? Wouldn't that make sense?
Yes.
And when it comes to sovereignty, well, China thinks it owns everything, okay? So their idea of sovereignty is that they own, like, the whole of the South China Sea, they own Taiwan, they own parts of Siberia or whatever it is.
This screamed Taiwan.
They own India.
Yes.
They own, you know what I mean?
The parts,
region, exactly. So for them, so we're just going to, what are we doing?
It's special operations, guys.
We're attacking Taiwan. Why? It's just part of our non-war. It's our non-war military operations to look after sovereignty. Our sovereignty was, threatened here. Right. How about, there's a plane flying in international waters in the South China Sea, or a boat in international. Let's blow it up because that's our sovereignty. It's not non-war. Yeah. You got to watch out, this wording. And that's what Putin was saying about all the military operations, right?
I want to make it black and white. By the way, I did want to shout out the channel, Geography Now, that taught me how to say Tonga properly.
Oh, okay.
One of my favorite channels. Anyway, the important part of this, why are you scowling?
I think geography is important, but I've never met someone who's obsessed with geography. You are.
You should say like you are.
Yeah, like you are. Like you do those quizzes where it's like, takes a random picture of something and you're like, where is this picture taken? And you're like, that's
I do. I love it.
This small city in southern Bangladesh or something.
I absolutely love it.
I'm like, what? it's the same as on the level of those like military fanboys and stuff,
okay.
but now it's about geography. So you're a
Sure.
geography fanboy
Absolutely.
in a big way.
100%.
I've never met anyone like that.
Oh,
That's
there's
interesting.
obviously a lot of us out there. Geography now has like 3 million subscribers.
Sure.
So there you go.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with geography.
yeah.
It's interesting.
I feel like we're getting into something here where
we're
don't make me make a poll.
No, yeah,
You know,
okay.
people do Wordle. Do you know that New York Times thing? Wordle?
I've heard the word. I don't know what it is.
It's like this thing where you make, they give you letters and you make words out of it or
Okay.
some shit. I don't care about that. You know what I play? I play Worldle, which is a ripoff of Wordle. And it's literally like shows you it's not even a picture. It's just an outline of a country like you would have on a map, black and white. And you get 5 or 6 tries, I guess. Every time I almost get it first try. So yes, I am.
Does you and your little subculture, do you got like cosplaying flags?
Flags are a huge part of
Is
it.
it like
I know a lot of revisions for like countries, like what their flags.
Do you like
used to mean.
secretly have flags sewn into your
for sure.
clothes and
Oh,
stuff?
Obviously.
Just checking.
Sure.
I
And
just
if I
feel
was
like-
to have a tattoo, if I was gonna get tattoos, which I don't have,
Yeah.
little tidbit, we have no
No,
tattoos.
none
neither of us.
whatsoever. Yeah.
If I was to get them, I would get some. I don't even know what I would get, to be honest. Anyway,
Random flags.
can we get back on topic here?
It's kind of bizarre because it is a side of you that people don't know is that you're
That's true.
obsessed with geography.
It is, absolutely.
Which actually works out very well for the show.
I love like borders, like countries' borders. That's why I like Russia and China.
Kind of boring if you ask me. Anyway.
The Russia and China border was fascinating to me
Yeah.
because there's two countries that have almost nothing in common.
Yeah.
And there's a border there. It's bizarre.
It is.
Different racial groups, languages, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, can I get back on the point?
Yeah, please.
So, where was I?
You were talking about your geography fetish, pretty much.
Why did this have to get sexual?
No, it's not. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You were talking about geography
I
now.
don't make my wife dress up as a country.
Okay.
I'll tell you what.
She
She
got, like,
comes out as a landmass.
Bikini that's like different flags and
Oh, see,
stuff.
you're getting real sexy about this. I was thinking more of a huge foam Canada or something. Can you be Canada tonight?
Yeah.
It's not like a Canadian flag bikini. It's just a big foam thing.
You like cut your chicken nuggets out in the shape of countries
I
and
do,
stuff.
for sure.
Whatever.
And I dip them in sauces that are representative of the
different,
flag's color.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Or like a German will be like mustard, like
Oh,
that.
you could do that. You could do regional flavors as well.
Yeah, there
for
we go.
sure.
All right.
Absolutely. Anyway.
Sorry.
What I want to say back on topic here
Yeah.
with this stuff, I'm not fear. I always have to say that.
Yeah, it's not fear-mongering.
But you know what the important thing is that whether this happens.
You had a Geo Metro, right?
I did. I did.
You know what I mean? Like,
I had a Geo Metro as my first car. This should be Yumcha conversation. Anyway,
Yeah, well,
this is
we'll
why you guys
continue
are
later.
subscribed, right?
yeah.
Subscribe if you haven't, by the way.
Yeah.
So anyway, the important thing about this is that it's not that it's going to mean the invasion is happening. We know what's bullshit, by the way, this leaked audio thing you keep hearing about.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get down at you guys for sending it to me, but I've been constantly contacting people about how to verify this.
No one can
And
verify it.
No one can verify it, and it's probably not true. It's probably not true. So if you've seen that elsewhere, I'm not dogging on YouTubers that did cover this.
No.
On alternative media sites.
And
all
look, there's
those
always a
Rumble
chance
things.
it's true too.
Of
Can't
course.
discount it. Can't discount it.
But listen to me. It's probably not true. It's probably not true. And so when you look at something like this is put out there
By
not
the
to-
Chinese
by the
government.
Chinese government, but it's not to trick you. It's not to be like, oh, here's a diversionary tactic. It's to set up a legal framework internationally to do something at some point.
Yeah.
So when I say this doesn't mean Taiwan's going to get invaded tomorrow. I truly don't think it's possible to do that in the near future. But it does set up a legal framework internationally to set up expectations for something to happen.
Absolutely.
And trust me, we'll know if China's going to invade Taiwan. We'll see build up over satellites. You can't stage an invasion like that just like lickety split.
Sure.
We'll know it's happening. But it does kind of it's like dipping your toes in the water, and it's almost emulating what Russia did.
And it is emulating what
Yeah.
Russia did, and it's giving justification for doing things.
Yeah.
Oh, it's written into our law. This is
Sure.
our sovereignty, and you know what? We're going to do it.
Yes.
So you just got to be
It's
mindful.
very
of this.
important. It's very important. Definitely keep your eye on it for sure.
Yeah.
That's why we brought it up.
Yeah, and again, not saying China's about to attack Taiwan or anything, but we all know that China has been threatening to attack Taiwan for decades. It's like their biggest political thing they do all the
Yes.
time, and so you can never really lower your guard as far as this is concerned. Most of the time, you can just brush it off as being like hot air and bullshit, but this time, I got to be careful.
People are calling me a foamy instead of a furry.
Nice.
I don't make my wife dress up in foam countries.
I mean, yeah, yeah.
You're the one sitting here thinking about I shouldn't even say my wife. Now this is getting weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
You're thinking about women in bikinis in the not in the shape, in the flags of the countries. That makes so much more sense than the bullshit I came up with.
Of course. Yeah. It's like, let's visit Brazil today. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Ooh, Japan looking quite slim.
Oh man.
Anyway.
Let's go down to Argentina.
Yeah, yes.
Let's go continue.
Oh,
So
gosh,
we
what
just
are we
had to.
doing?
We just had to.
Argentina would be a good shape. I'm thinking
Yeah.
about the country's shape. It would be a good shape.
Yeah. Anyway, all that aside. Okay.
What would be the worst? What would be the worst? Like Sri Lanka or something?
I actually don't know.
What would be the worst? We're talking about the shape of the actual country, by the way, not the people.
Yeah. Okay, so
Russia would
by the way, it's time for Worldview, guys. We'll have a big yamcha. Don't worry, we got all your questions are here. Worldview, where we talk about what's happening in the world, usually with regards to China, and we're currently looking at prison tech.
Yeah, so can I talk about this a little bit? You can chime in. You actually know a lot about this as well.
Sure.
So on some deep dive stuff, Winston and I would like to look into what companies and countries make certain things.
Yeah.
The reason we have a vested interest in is that we want to find companies that it's not just about boycotting China. It's about avoiding labor that is taking advantage of people within China. It can be a country like North Korea and stuff like this.
And it's about not funding the CCP.
Correct. So if you find supply chains that are fully going straight into the Chinese government's pockets, you want to avoid stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Mostly not avoiding private companies. We're talking about companies that would support the Chinese government, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we found out that a huge part of the American penal system, so the 2 million prisoners or whatever, there's a lot of prisoners in America.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Yeah, a
people
lot of
in
prisoners,
jail.
yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you.
Not as many as Xinjiang, by the way.
Well, fair enough. Fair enough.
You want to have the biggest prison population, just
Good
go
point.
to Western China.
There you go. That's a good point. No, but I will say, huge issue in America with that.
Sure.
Definitely a problem that needs to be addressed, and I will definitely go on record and say that's pretty messed up.
Of course.
Now,
Yeah. We've all heard that's the thing about America is, even me as a South African who's got nothing to do with this country, even when I was growing up and people always like, oh, it's the privatization of the prisons is what drove this up. And
it's pretty messed
people,
up.
Of course, but why do I know about that?
Because it's talked about.
Because it's a topic that needs to be addressed.
Yes.
Why does me as a South African in my high school have to hear this garbage about a country the other side of the world?
Right.
It's because it's talked about.
It's talked about.
And it pisses me off because I don't care when I'm not in America.
Right. Now you care.
Before that. Now I
Sure.
care. But the thing is, it's like, that's my point. When you talk about these terrible parts of society in America,
Yeah.
it gets the knowledge is put out there. Everybody knows there's a problem. And when people know there's a problem, people can protest about it, people can talk about it, people can start to change these problems.
For sure.
But in China, you try to talk about the problems
It's
there.
not just talk about. You can vote leadership and change actual laws.
Of course, that
and
too. But
funding.
me as a South African, I can't, right? But what I can do
You might be
is
able
I can
to
talk
eventually.
about it. And I could talk to people who might know somebody who could then write their congressman.
Right.
Who could, whatever
this
the
is
case.
a deep cut.
What I'm trying to
because
say
we're
is that-
talking about clear TV.
Yes, I'll get to that. But the thing is, again, I must reiterate that
Yes.
when you talk about the real issues in China like we do,
Yeah.
you get labeled as anti-China, smearing China,
Yeah.
racist, whatever
Yeah.
the case. And that's not what we're trying to achieve here.
Oh, there's a lot of things that need to be addressed in China.
Yeah,
Need to
we
be
talk
talked
about these things because they need to be talked about. They need the awareness out there so people can hopefully affect some kind of change.
We wouldn't be doing it if the droves of Chinese people didn't email us and tell us, please keep it up. We
Sure.
don't have a voice.
Just so
anyway,
got to put that out there.
moving back.
Yeah.
Winston and I both love, by the way, enough jokes about penile colonies.
Colonies. Yeah, I mean,
I said penal. I didn't say penile. All right. It's not a penile system.
Yeah.
That's down below.
I don't know,
you
man.
Have your own
Like,
penile
you hear
system.
about those jail stories, man. I just
There's a
don't
lot
know.
of penile systems going on in the penal system.
Let's move on. Okay?
Anyway,
let's get this out of the gutter
there's
for a
probably
minute.
a lot of penile diseases as
Yeah,
well.
stop. Okay.
Anyway, so we love. This is another deep cut. We love CRTs.
Yes.
And CRTs are
Cathode ray tube.
cathode ray tube TVs, right? And these are the ones you grew up with. The ones that were probably kind of popular up until about 17 years ago. Big box TVs. Some people call them box TVs, right?
Oh, they do?
Yeah, some people will. Like old box TVs, or they'll just say old TV.
I feel people just call them TVs.
Yeah, for sure. I'm talking about if you want to differentiate. Right?
Okay.
Because remember, flat screen became a thing.
Sure.
Right? Anyway, now that you guys got penile jokes out of your system, we love CRTs because we are retro game collectors.
And it's not just because they're on the Auroras either.
That's another reason, though. Yes.
Yeah.
Aurora.
Yeah.
We should have an Aurora soundbite. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe we could put those ducks flying.
those are probably Canadian ducks.
Yeah.
They probably
And the Aurora, I think that'll work.
Anyway, can we get back to the
Yeah,
CRT?
sure.
So we love CRTs because we are retro game collectors. And retro games are old games, like an old PlayStation, old SNES, an old NES, right?
Yeah.
Sega. You don't want to play these old games on a big, beautiful 4K TV because they look like shit.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they do.
If you use old tech, it looks like it's supposed to. So a lot of people collect these, right?
Mm-hmm. And if you have a good Sony PVM,
Yeah, that's the best kind.
and you
right?
can put RGB into it,
Right.
you know, like
Your PVM's better than mine.
component, not composite component. If you put component RGB into these things, it makes those old consoles look amazing.
Amazing,
Yeah,
right? So you can really go back. Anyway, the important thing about this is that they were used. These CRT TVs were used up until like fairly recently in the penal system.
Yes.
Stop! Don't join the penile crew.
I'm not.
Someone's gonna make fan art.
Just
of the
say prison.
penile
Just say
crew.
prison system.
Prison system. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's not a penile system. I said penal, like penalize.
I understand, but we're
Penal?
not talking about like.
Penal sounds worse.
Yeah, I guess you could say like a penal colony if you're talking about
Sure.
Australia or whatever.
We say penal system and penal code.
Yeah.
You're just trying not to laugh. I'll say prison.
Yeah, let's say
so
prison
in the
system.
jails,
Yeah.
in the prisons,
Yeah.
in the jails, I'll say jail. They were using
Being
these.
penalized over here.
I learned all about this because it came up on my radar that these TVs you could buy with commissary funds in certain jails. Commissary is like the amount of money you get in your little bank account to buy stuff in jail. And it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. We learned a lot. At least I've been looking into it about how this little prison economy works.
Yeah.
Because they'll be wildly expensive, obviously. You can put your funds to a little TV where you put in your bunk. You're allowed to keep in some jails.
Yeah.
Allowed to keep it in your bunk. Now, these TVs were being advertised, not obviously like, come buy a prison TV, but within the jail system
Yes.
as being American.
Yeah,
American
RCA.
TV. RCA. It's an American company, right? But what it turned out to be was RCA was using TCL.
Yes.
Which is one of China's biggest electronics companies.
I think it's the second biggest
Probably
one
the
in the
second
world.
biggest in the world, right?
So-
So we're using them to make them for the brand RCA.
So basically, what's happening is the taxpayers are paying the prisoners.
The prison economy.
Yeah.
Because technically the taxpayers are not buying the TVs. They're spending their own money.
No, sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I think the fact that they can earn money inside the prison is probably
That's-
because they're given that opportunity because taxpayers are housing them there.
Fair enough.
Okay.
You can all come back to the taxpayers.
At the end of the day, what's happening is the American prison system is
using China.
paying TCL to
Yes.
make the prison tech.
Now, TCL has massive government connections. I can attest to this.
Yeah.
I've been in TCL, like you were in Tencent. I've been in
Yeah.
TCL hundreds of times.
Yeah.
Now, listen, it doesn't stop there.
Sure.
It moved on, right? So obviously it's flat screen stuff now. But everything's clear because they don't want people to smuggle in shivs and knives and drugs, weapons and stuff. So everything's got to be clear.
Yeah.
Right? That's why you're seeing clear stuff. But now it's smaller TVs, like little LCD panels, right?
Sure.
And everything's about 10, 15 years behind what we
Yeah.
have out here. But they even have little consoles, like video game consoles.
Yeah,
right?
kind of like a handheld gaming console.
Every single piece of tech I saw that is being bought by federal and local prisons is Chinese.
Sure.
Right? So if you go on, actually, I'll show you an example of one of these games that this plays.
Okay.
You can imagine you're having a great time in jail. You get to play the high-tech games here. But you know what's funny about that?
What?
They tried to OEM, basically buy a bunch of these consoles, these video game consoles from China originally. But they came with all these pirated games.
Right.
So they can't have that in America, right? So they have to get all these crap, no-name games.
knockoff
These prisoners
games.
sitting here playing like Lemmings on a Ladder or some shit, like fake Sonic.
It's just like we've done in the past. We've actually got that Chinese console that we got. So
Yes.
we're going to play live for you guys at some point.
Right. So if you look at here, this is like a model number, manufacturer number. What brand can you read on that little TV? That's currently being sold.
It says RCA on
Yeah,
that
it's
one.
RCA, right?
Yeah.
But what does that say over, if you do some digging, what does that say right there? Country of origin.
Is subject to change.
Yeah, what's
China.
Yeah.
So China. Okay.
Yeah. So you have an entire economy, right? And we're talking like millions of units being sold.
Yeah, because there's millions of prisoners.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
And they're captive customers.
Sure. Literally. You got a captive audience.
Captive audience. So you get this
Captive customer base. Wow.
You get, it's quite literally, the American government's tied to the Chinese government in many ways, because a lot of these are state enterprises in China that are making the devices used in the American federal prison system. It blows my mind, and that needs reform.
Yeah.
And that's something that needs to be addressed. But this actually led me down this massive deep rabbit hole.
Okay.
Which I think, honestly, I'm just going to throw it out there.
Yeah.
There's this whole economy in the prison system, and it's called JPay.
Okay.
In every state. Mm-hmm. And I found out one of the features of JPay is that they're going on TikTok.
Okay.
And they're sending out singles ads, but they're not just for dating. It's just like people to make friends.
Right.
And someone will go up to the window. You know, like when you talk to someone in prison and they're behind the glass. They'll go up with their phone or whatever recording. It's not even a phone. It's like whatever is allowed in prison.
Like a camcorder.
Some very bad quality, as you can see. And they'll go and they'll record these people that sign up for JPay. They'll use this prison economy JPay website to pay money to go send someone to visit them. And then interface with them and be like, Kathleen says, I hope you're doing well, Tom. You know, like blah, blah. And like, just play this real quick.
All right.
My name is Brad. I'm from the Boise, Idaho area. I'm on here looking for somebody to converse with. I'm down to my last year, and I'd like to meet some people around here, if possible. The closer, the better. I'm a good
lazy
guy.
inmate.
I do believe so.
Why?
It's all about like the closer, the better, as if you can choose.
I'm currently incarcerated at.
Okay.
And I'm just looking to find a connection with somebody. If you'd like to
Okay,
reach
just pause
out
it
to
there.
me, you can hit me up on.
So
I blanked out the numbers and stuff because like they whatever.
Yeah.
But then there's all these accounts that are using this. I just find it fascinating. This kind of clandestine economy that they're using to buy Cheetos and TVs, or like even to send someone to go talk to someone for you.
Yeah.
Kind of like a video pen pal in a way. An interface with them.
So I guess somebody would record a message and send it to the courier, who goes and sits there, plays that back to them, and then they do a reply, which then gets uploaded, and it's like that kind of situation.
And they're using their commissary funds to pay for that, and then this person on the outside is using that too.
And it's
kind of fascinating.
It's going on TikTok?
It's on TikTok. Now,
so
I just wanted to say
there's a China connection there.
There is.
Yeah.
Actually have some information about that later.
Okay.
But I did want to say, in this rabbit hole, I actually thought this was kind of sweet. I thought this was kind of nice. Like, think about it. You can talk to people on the outside and meet new people and stuff. I get you could have like a letter writing campaign.
Yeah.
It's got to be kind of crappy in jail.
Yeah, sure.
But anyway, I thought that was fascinating. And just to know the connection between the American prison system, not penal, sorry.
Yeah, the prison
system is deeply connected to China
in
a way.
At least what they're, buying for them, what you can buy.
It's a huge industry.
Yeah, it is.
So.
Well, that's kind of interesting. I guess it's time for us to hit our Yamcha, which of course is where we have our questions and answers. We relax, we chill out, loosen the tie, have a nice conversation with you, answer all your questions and junk. And by junk, I mean like have fun. What we first are going to do, though, is remind you that Yamcha stays up for the weekend. So you can watch it now live, you can watch it on the weekend, but on Monday we cut it out.
Yeah.
But before we get into our questions and answers, we wanted to just tell you about the videos that we have released on our channels quickly. So we're going to play that for you. Just bear with us for a second. I know this might sound strange to a lot of people, but you may actually be funding the Chinese government and funding the Chinese military without knowing it. A lot of us choose to invest in Chinese companies. It's a way to make a quick buck, and it has proven to be quite lucrative to a lot of people in the past.
Is China going to collapse? The collapse of the CCP, the collapse of the Communist Party of China is imminent. They are ready to collapse, and what's going to take its place? What's going to actually take the place of the Communist Party of China when it collapses?
So you can go ahead if you'd like to. Well, why do you have that pineapple there?
Oh, that's for Yamcha.
Okay, all right.
We're going to eat stuff, right? Eat and drink. And
Right.
Anyway,
okay.
Go check out the links of our this week's videos, had just been released today and yesterday, are in the description. Open them up in some new tabs if you can. I'm going to wait 2 seconds. 1, 2. Okay, you see that description? You've opened up my video and your video in new tabs to watch immediately after this. No, they should, because they're really good ones.
Right.
I think you'll learn something from both of them.
Yeah, I do have an appeal You know that this video that I released about the finance thing is my worst performing video this entire year, and probably all of last year too. So if you don't mind going and just giving it a watch and a thumbs up for the algorithm.
Video.
Yeah, it's not terrible. I got
help us out with the
I got a
algorithm.
financial watcher on there to give some information. Whether you're interested in the topic or not, I would really appreciate you just going there and giving it a
For sure.
Just give it a watch.
My video's doing crap too, and what I will say is that
Doing better than mine.
Well, listen.
Yeah.
Help both of us out because
Yeah.
I think no one's gonna regret watching the videos. I think it's the subject matter might not grab people right off the get-go, but I think you'll absolutely learn something from both of them.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now
Let's get into it.
it's called no one can leave China.
Yeah, that's right.
Doc Southington, have a good weekend, fellas. I'll report next week.
Thank you.
On the basket of pineapples, who wouldn't approach old Doc? Be fighting him off with my cane. Doc,
Wonderful.
you're the man.
Guys, it's been fantastic having you on the show again. It's always good to have this very important conversation that we have every week. We hope you've enjoyed yourself and been entertained, but also been a little educated as to what's going on. We cannot wait to see you again on the ADVChina, The China Show.
And go check out our videos
ADV
right
podcast.
now in the description, both of our
Please,
channels.
please do. We'd appreciate that. Can't wait to see you next week. And until then, you know the drill as always. Stay awesome. And I won't cut myself off. Let's count down.
No way.
5, 4,